Good afternoon, everyone, and my apologies again for our technical issues. The camera we've been using was given to us by BTV6 back in the 1960s, and it's not working very good, so we've now gone to a phone camera. So, thank you. Hindmarsh Shire Council acknowledges that this meeting is being held on the lands of the Watchabolik, Jardwa, Jali, Werrigai and Yupagol nations, and we acknowledge them as traditional owners of country. We recognise the important ongoing role that Indigenous people have in our community and pay our respects to their elders past and present. This meeting is being broadcast on the internet and the recording of the meeting will be published on Council's Facebook page. As a visitor in the public gallery, you may be filmed. By remaining in the public gallery, you consent to being filmed and for the recording of you to be made public available by the Council. A copy of the Council's live streaming and recording of Council meetings policy is available at the back of this room and on the Council's website. Please speak to one of our staff members if you have any questions. And we do have a lovely gentleman in our gallery today, so welcome to our Council meeting. Item 2, apologies. Are there any apologies? Sorry? Oh, sorry, we need to create the statement of values. Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you, Mayor Ismay. Our statement of values as councillors is our commitment is to come prepared to every meeting, fostering a respectful and inclusive environment where accountability and approachability are at the core of our actions. We value and encourage innovation, collaboration and open-ended open communication, always keeping in mind the well-being and needs of our communities. Together we stand, united as one, working towards shared goals with mutual respect and consideration.
Thank you, Councillor Barker. Item 2, apologies. No apologies? No? Okay. Item 3, declarations of interest. Is there any councillor or anyone in the room with a general or material conflict of interest? No? Okay. Item 4, confirmation of minutes and business arising. And they have a recommendation. Someone like to move that recommendation?
I can move that.
Thank you, Councillor White.
I'd like to move that the minutes of the ordinary council meeting held on Wednesday the 5th of February 2025 at the Council Chamber, 92 Nelson Street, Neil, as circulated to councils to be taken as read and confirmed.
Thank you. And a seconder? Councillor Clark. Is there anyone that wants to speak against the motion? If not, I'll put the motion. All in favour? Against? The motion's carried. Thank you. Business arriving from previous minutes.
It's just there for council information.
Sorry?
It's just there for council.
Okay, all right. Item 5, public question and submission time.
Thank you, Mayor. We have one question today from David Colbert of Nil. David asks, I appeal to you to approach Vic Roads to slow the traffic speed through Nil by 10 kilometres per hour from Lee Street to the school crossing at Queen Street. I'll hand over to Council's Director of Infrastructure to respond.
Thank you, Monica. Council has been advocating to Vic Roads or DTP for their speed limit reduction from the school crossing to Lee Street to be reduced to 40 kilometres per hour for a number of years. We'll continue to advocate and we are hopeful that the speed limit will be reduced in the near future.
Okay. Have we got any questions from the public? No? Okay. Right, we'll move on to item 6.1, council activity reports, and mine is the first Western Highway Action Group I went to in Coniva recently. Probably shouldn't have done because now I'm the deputy chair of that organisation, but it was well attended and while I don't live on the Western Highway, it's very important to us because it goes through 2 of our towns in our council. So don't know if there's anything. Oh, the Regional Development Australia Wimmera Forum in Ararat was really well attended and well worth going to. I went with that with 3 of my fellow councillors and also the CEO, and I found it very informative. And something was raised that stuck in my head was what David Johinke said, that we need to engage our fellow councillors in the urban areas to champion our cause for some sort of road funding, because no one listens to us. Like, there's not enough votes out here, and he said we need to engage our fellow councillors in the other areas. So whether we can achieve that or not, I don't know, but that's something that came from that I thought was certainly made sense. I don't know if there's anything. I did all the listening, or most of the listening sessions, except for Rainbow and Yannick. That's probably all I need to report. No questions. Councillor Oy.
Okay. It was a big month after the fires, so with all the community meetings, so that was good to see the community come together to show concern for vulnerable people in the community. Opening up the 2 learning centres in the region, which is really significant for the future of our region in terms of supporting young children. Of course, the big meeting in Ararat was very significant, learned a lot there. I think coming away from that, in terms of renewable energies, make sure that if it's coming, make sure that we as a community, as a region, extract the most value from that, but also about collaboration with each other as well as the towns. I had a meeting with the bystanders at Jamul, so that was important that we, once again, in connection with children, provide a good service so that we nurture their future, so they become good citizens for the region. Look, it was a big month, but I learned a lot, so it was a lot of new first-time events for me. So thank you.
Thanks, Councillor. Councillor Aiken.
Thank you. Again, after the back of the fires meetings, a large couple of weeks there. So then we went through the listening post meetings at Rainbow, and out at Yannick we had the opening of the learning centre over at Nil, and just a number of other general meetings like the museum meeting at Parrot. So yeah, still another big month.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, no questions. Councillor Barker.
Thank you, Mayor Esme. It was a busy month, wasn't it, right, Councillor Atkins? And so I had some really great events that I attended. I really enjoyed going to the Prominent Women of Nil talk at the Nil Historical Society, and it'd be great to see more presentations like that by Craig Proctor, talking about a woman called, one of her many names, pen names was Lindsay Russell. So it was a really interesting. He was a great speaker, really engaging, and it was a really nice afternoon with lots of Nil people in attendance. So that was one of the really good ones. I went to all the listening posts, and it was really great to see so many people from the community and the different communities come and talk about their concerns and the things that they were, supports that they were looking for from the council. I did notice that Yannick was, even though the smallest kind of area that we did the listening post in, they held it in their hall there at Yannick, and it was really, a lot of people turned up for that, and it just made me wonder about, like, in the future, utilising our small community halls as the space to hold those listening posts in, if that helps people feel more comfortable than perhaps some of the places that we did utilise, although they were all great. There was just an interesting, how many people turned up from Yannick and with the things that they brought up. I thought it was great, the response to the bushfire that the council did, in particular the work that our CEO, Monica Ravel, gave, and held the meeting so everyone was aware of what was happening, utilising all the different services that were involved. It was a really well put together support, I felt, from council, in particular from the CEO, organised the staff to engage with that and the different services. I went to a few of those, and you could see that people were really engaged and felt really supported, the ones that attended. So I also attended the Nil Aviation Heritage Centre Volunteers Day, and man, do they volunteer. They have to go out there, and even as we were holding the meeting, there were people walking around looking at the displays. I thought it was a fabulous effort that they put together. It was so clean and tidy, well put together. They've got plans. They've been working with mentors to make plans for the future for there, to make it more interesting. And I think if anybody's looking for something to volunteer at in Nil, I would highly recommend, and a really well put together community effort there. I did attend the kindergartens in schools, on school sites, for both Dimboola and Nil. The effort that was put in by council staff to get that ready in time, you know, for the beginning of the year, seems like it was a mammoth effort. And also that our Minister Jacinta Emakora attended, and also made the effort to make some extra time to come and see us here at the chambers to talk about the fundings and things that we saw that were concerning to us as a council that can help promote more funding for us out here in this rural area of Haima Shire, and her taking that into account. And just to finish on, Cindy Bunt at the library, author of cookbooks. You know, you wouldn't think anything could be as entertaining, but she was fabulous, and I'd love to see more of that sort of, and so many people attended. You know, it was a great effort, and it was well attended, and between her and Craig Proctor, I think, you know, we should do more of that sort of thing for our region. Wonderful person, doesn't live in our shire, doesn't matter, just very interesting the way she put together the recipe. For us ladies, that was very exciting, and she was very entertaining. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Councillor Barker. Councillor Barry.
Can you put Rosie last from now on, because I can't follow that. Sorry, Rosie, you've done too much. No, look, I went to that fire thing, which was good to see all the emergency services talk, as well as a couple of kids on school openings. It was good to see that something only took 18 months, and a few people had commented to that on me, because normally things take a lot longer than that. And like the others, I went to the, it was good to share the car with Rosie and Ronnie down to Ararat, lots to discuss about, and apart from that, just a few meetings and briefings. All good, thank you.
All right, thank you. Councillor Fyfe.
Yeah, last but not least, certainly, I think I'll go ahead of Councillor Barker as well. Look, obviously, Councillor, I went to listening sessions at Rainbow, Yannick and Jeparit. Certainly interesting there. Certainly nothing more than wanting to hear what the public wish the Shire to be doing to them. But also too, being able to have a conversation with, if they raise an issue, explain what is going on and why it's going on. And that understanding by people of a bit more of that sort of picture helps them to appreciate their issue and the results. So, other than that, look, as I say, for the previous month, I've been inhibited by my full-time employment. There's certainly a lot of things I would like to have gone to. I believe today was I can't think of the word, historic old-time movie was on at Rainbow today, and I was quite keen to go, but it looks like YouTube's going to have to get a flogger, so, because I would have liked to have seen that movie, so, yeah, thank you.
All right, thanks, Councillor Fyfe. Item 7, correspondence, and we have a recommendation.
Yes, I'd like to move that council notes the attached correspondence attachments 3 to 5.
Thank you. Seconder, Councillor Oy. All in favour? Against? Motion's carried. Thank you. Item, Councillor.
I just wondered about the in and out from the Ross Johns regarding the renewables. speak to that at all, or am I too late?
You're probably too late.
Just wondered.
Keep going. Okay. Item 8, Assembly of Council Records. And recommendations.
I'll give you name there. Look, I move the motion that council notes the Assembly of Councillors as presented in attachments 6 and 7.
Thank you. And the seconder, Councillor Barry. All in favour? Against? The motion carried. Thank you. Item 9, planning permits, and there aren't any. Item 10.1, delegations update S5 and S11A. The Local Government Act 2020 allows council to delegate their powers by resolution to ensure that many decisions required to be made are done so in an efficient way, allowing council meetings to remain focused on strategic matters and community leadership. This report presents the S11A Instrument of Delegation under Planning and Environment Act 1987 and the S5 Instrument of Delegation to the Chief Executive Officer for council consideration. The S11A will enable a council officer who has recently attained a formal town planning qualification to undertake additional responsibilities within council's development team. The S5 instrument to the CEO removes 2 sections that are otherwise accounted for in the Hindmarsh Shire Council procurement policy. Are there any questions from councillors? Councillor Barker.
Thank you, Mayor Ismay. I was happy to see this. I think that in our listening post, people were talking about potential delays in permits and being able to get decisions made by council. And am I understanding correctly that this then allows our town planners to make decisions that don't have any objections and can and they can deal with those things in an appropriate manner? That's my question.
Short answer is no, you're not correct. So the delegation for planning decisions is in a different instrument that also comes from council. At the moment, that's only delegated to the Chief Executive Officer. Under the Planning and Environment Act, there's several other responsibilities around enforcement and investigation that are covered under this instrument. So now that she's qualified, she'll be able to, if council approves it, undertake those responsibilities. The delegation for deciding permits is retained by the CEO and council.
Okay. Can you give me an example of one of those delegations that she may take?
Yes, Ram, may I defer to you?
The delegations basically for the planning is she can make a decision, recommendation based on the planning scheme to the CEO.
An example of?
Any of the planning permits coming in to...
I thought she said it wasn't planning permits.
So the delegation that is being awarded here enables the planning officer to, if there's a breach of a condition within the planning permit, the planning officer will be able to then investigate and undertake any action that's required. So it's really around any enforcement that might need to be taken in relation to if council receives a complaint in relation to a community member may have cleared some trees without appropriately obtaining a planning permit, the planning officer is able to investigate.
Thank you. Great work. And I think that's great because it sort of fastens things up a little bit, and that was what was talked about in some of our listening posts. So good to see that, and that's basically the role of someone who's works for our council and has recently acquired the qualification. So we're recognising that movement forward within our council as well, which is great to be nurturing future leaders within our council. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, are there any further questions? If not, I have a recommendation here. Would someone like to move that recommendation? Councillor Barker?
I move this delegations update in the exercise of the powers conferred by the legislation referred to in the attached S11A Instrument of Delegation under the Planning and Environment Act 1987 and S5 Instrument of Delegation from Council to the Chief Executive Officer, and Council resolves numbers 1 to 5 about this, in regards to this delegation, and all of that information is in the attachments 8 to 9.
Thank you. And the seconder? Councillor Aiken? Would you like to speak to your motion?
No, thank you.
Okay, Councillor Aiken?
No, thank you.
If no one wants to speak against the motion, if not, put the motion, all in favour. Against, the motion is carried. Thank you. Item 10.2, Governance Report Policy Updates. This report presents the Council expense entitlement policy and fee waiver and reduction policy for Council adoption. Both policies have undergone review with minor amendments proposed. 1. Councillor expense entitlement policy following the changes to the Local Government Governance and Integrity Amendment Regulations 2024 and the provisions within which came into effect from the 24th of October 2024, officers have undertaken a review of the Council expense entitlements policy. Changes have been made to reflect the additional legislative requirements of Council to undertake mandatory annual training and administrative nature, not fundamentally changing the policy's intent or application. And 2, fee waiver and reduction policy. Fee waiver and reduction policy was adopted in June 2024 and establishes Council's position in relation to requests to partially or fully waive various types of fees and charges. After a period of implementation of this policy, there are minor amendments proposed that would improve the efficiency of administering waiver and reduction requests. The proposed amendments mean that managers and directors could approve requests with their service area up to the amount they would be previously have been recommended for approval to the CEO. This approval value is well within both manager and director financial delegation, and the discretion aligns with existing expectations regarding prudent budget management. So, are there any questions regarding this policy update? Councillor Barker.
Thank you, Mayor Ismay. I guess I just have a question of this. I think it's really great that we're doing policy updates. It reflects the fact that they're, or that our council staff and CEO are reviewing what is in our policies to ensure they reflect effective and appropriate governance. And I personally, thought that the new inductions and that we did as a council were very effective. I just wonder if this is a monthly review or do we do this annually? I just wonder how often, how do you know what needs updating basically, and when? Do we just review it all the time?
Through you, Mayor. When we set policies, they have review schedules. It's normally 3 or 4 years. However, when there's a legislative change, often that'll come with a set of guidelines that'll recommend that councils review those policies. Myself and our governance team are also very onto it, so we're aware of every policy that we have and probably know them pretty well. So if there is a change or if there is an issue with the way that policy is being implemented, we would review it out of cycle, but the cycle reflects when we're likely to see significant changes required in the policy.
Thank you.
Councillor Clark.
Yeah, probably I'll start with the CEO. I see here, when it discusses council expense entitlements policy, I see here it's not about changing any expense costs or anything. It was more about signing a declaration upon completion of the mandatory training, which is a governance issue, withholding allowances until the training had been undertaken, and ensuring completion of that training. And the last one was a limit of extension of time to complete training. So By these, we're saying that there's no changes to the expenses, but it's just the governance and making sure that training's undertaken. Is that what I'm reading here?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, any further questions? If not, I have a motion, or I have a recommendation, sorry. I need a motion. Councillor Clark.
Well, I'll move the motion.
Thank you.
The council adopts the councillor expense entitlements policy and adopts the fee waiver and reduction policy, and it's been included as attachments 10 and 11.
Thank you. And a seconder? Councillor Barry, you would like to speak to your motion?
No, look, I think I just have asked the motion, and I
Yeah.
think the main part that's could be questioned by the public, I've just had addressed. So
Yeah.
thank you, Mayor.
Councillor Barry, you would like to speak to?
No, I think everyone's spoken enough for it.
Okay, no speakers against the motion. If not, I'll put the motion. All in favour? Against? Motion carried. Thank you. Item 10.3, by 5, Wimmera Summer Mallee Early Years Initiative, ongoing funding advocacy. This report seeks support from the Council for an advocacy campaign regarding Phase 2, 2025 to 2029 of the By 5 program. By 5 represents 5 local government areas: Hindmarsh, Horsham, Rural City, Northern Grampians, West Wimmera and Yarra Ambiac, working together to improve outcomes across 5 developmental domains measured at school entry through the Australian Early Development Census. For over 4 years, a paediatric telehealth service has been delivered in partnership with the Royal Children's Hospital, funded jointly through the By 5 initiative and VMST funding, supporting and training paediatrician. However, this funding is only secured until June 30, 2025. Loss of this funding will have significant impact on our young people. To build on the success of the initial government investment, an additional $3.5 million in Victorian government funding is essential for Phase 2, 2025-2029. So, I'll open it up to discussion. Councillor Barker.
Thank you, Mayor. It's May. We had a presentation by 5, and I thought it was very interesting, and I think it's really important for us to advocate 0 to 5-year-olds and even in utero, the services in our rural area, and to bring a close focus onto the changes that may be required there. I was wondering if our CEO or one of the directors is able to tell me what the how many long daycare centres or kindergartens do we actually have in the Shire, in our Shire? Because she's advocating, for lots of different health things, but we've only, and I'm just interested because I have heard a lot from different community members who are finding it difficult to work, especially as men or women, to be able to work because they're unable to find daycare. So just wondering how many we actually have in our Shire, long daycare.
Happy to answer that question through you, Mr. Mayor.
Yep.
So in Hindmarsh we have a facility in Nil that has long daycare. It's 4 days a week, and we also have a facility in Dimboola that's also 4 days a week. We do definitely have a childcare desert in Japara and Rainbow, and earlier this year By 5 along with Yarra Ambiac and Hindmarsh, and some of our parents that are really advocating hard for childcare in our north and also in Hopetoun and Beulah communities from Yarra Ambiac, met with Anne Webster and Angie Bell, the Shadow Minister for Early Childhood, and really had an opportunity to talk through the challenges that our community face by having that childcare desert. So we heard from parents that were unable to go back to work because they have no one to look after their children. So it has a significant flow-on effect for our education precincts, for our hospitals, for our farming families, for every business, by not having access to childcare in all of our communities.
Indeed. Thank you.
there any further questions from anywhere around the table? No? Okay. We do have a recommendation. Councillor Barker.
I do recommend that our council advocates to the Victorian State Government, the Honourable Lizzie Bluntford, Minister for Children, to fund phase 2 of By5, covering program delivery from 2025 to 2029. And secondly, to raise awareness via all forms of media of the importance of this funding and its value to the Hindmarsh and broader Wimmera community. The children are our future. Thank you, Whitney.
Thank you. And a seconder, Councillor Hoy. Thank you. Would you like to speak to your motion, Councillor Barker?
I think I did speak to the long daycare centres. It's very much in shortage. You know, I meet a lot of nurses who are wanting to work more hours, more days in the different facilities in our shire, which we are extremely lucky to have through the West Wimmera Health Service. You know, it becomes quite prohibitive when you're unable to take care of your family in the way that you would like to. Also, you know, with not having appropriate paediatric services in our region, which can mean that issues in regard to, you know, like autism spectrum or ADHD, where you're wanting a paediatrician to create a diagnosis so you can start moving forward with the challenges that you may be presented with the upbringing of your children being, you know, having such significant long waits. And I think we really need someone like By5 to be advocating, and for us to be advocating for them as that flow on, to ensure that we are actually putting our eyes clearly on the most vulnerable in our community, which is the children.
Thank you, Councillor Hoy.
It's really important because what's starting for me to learn is that this region is quite disadvantaged, second only to the Northern Territory. So it's really important that we provide care to the formative stages of 1 to 5 for kids, because they are the future. So we need to make sure we're not disadvantaged.
Yep.
Thank you.
And if I may have a say also, I really believe we need to advocate for this. I don't think government people don't understand how we don't have the volumes that people have in the cities, and we're still important, and the tyranny and distance for people to be able to travel for these services just doesn't work. And somehow we need to change their thinking. I don't know how we do that. It always seems like the thinking only stops at Melton with government people. So I think, you know, certainly I will be advocating the best I can to try and keep this funding going. So having said that, I'll put the motion. All in favour? Against? The motion carried. Thank you. Item 10.4, Little Desert Bushfire Preliminary Business Impact Report. This report provides Council with a preliminary update of both qualitative and quantitative impacts to business across Hindmarsh Shire because of the Little Desert Bushfire, including the Western Highway closure. Council has conducted a survey of local businesses, which is ongoing, to gain an understanding of the immediate and ongoing impacts, including revenue loss, business disruption, and ongoing reduction in visitor and tourism-based economic input. Identified areas of significant impact include cash flow, customer attraction, ineligibility for business disruption insurance, cancelled bookings, and paying wages while the business is closed and unable to generate revenue. Based on the findings to date, Council's Economic Development and Tourism team have identified several strategies for long-term recovery that are detailed in the report. Further information will be gathered and will inform the comprehensive economic impact assessment, what will be presented to Council at a later date. Thank you. Does anyone have questions of that report? Councillor Barker.
Thank you, Mayor Ismay. I think it's really great that we are looking at how we can support people that have been impacted by the recent bushfires and being proactive to support the other agencies as involved as well. I just wonder, perhaps our CEO can talk to if there are people who feel like they weren't aware or of any supports that they could get, or if there was, if they are still able to engage with input on
The
this.
survey?
Thank you.
So the survey will be ongoing for some time because we really are keen to hear from as many businesses as possible on the initial impacts. So we know the highway being closed for 24 hours meant the through traffic that would normally stop, and they might grab a coffee or they might browse in a shop or buy some flowers because they're heading to visit a family member somewhere. That stopped, so we know that there's some significant impact, but we also want to know the flow-on impact. So are the visitors returning to the Shire yet? If not, well, let's put some measures in place. So for anyone that hasn't filled out the survey, please hop on Council's website or give our economic development team a call, and they'll be happy to talk to any community member, because we really do want to support our community in the recovery phase. And as you'll see in the report, we do have some longer term measures that we are looking at, but it also helps us to build a package to advocate to state government for assistance to help our businesses. By having that data that we can support through the surveys will just give us the opportunity to really put some pressure on to see some funding come our way to support our businesses.
Thank you.
Any other questions from around the table? Councillor, you don't have anything from your patch in Jimbola that was very much affected?
On the ground level in Jimbola, yes, it did affect business. The town was closed, but it also went further than the fire. It's aside from the Grampians fire, because people were told not to travel. So really, from a business perspective, I think the trades in Jimbola were affected from December, and of course the fire in Jimbola itself, I think it's just highlighted the suffering of the trading. So it's almost like a double whammy. It's a pre-fire and post-fire.
Okay. Right. There is a recommendation. Councillor,
Yeah, I can move that council notes the Little Desert Bushfire preliminary business impact report.
thank you. And secondly, Councillor Barry. Councillor, you wanted to speak to the motion?
Yes, so please, if you're a business owner, please fill in this report to help council work out a strategy to gain some economic benefit and recovery for the region. So, yes, so it's very important we get that feedback and data.
Thank you. Councillor Barry.
Yeah, I'd just like to acknowledge what Chan said, but natural disasters, look, unless we all get together and tell people and work out what goes on, no one knows.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, there's no... Yes?
So I also agree with Councillor Oy and Councillor Barry, and I think it's important to point out the reason that the survey is that the council is looking to get funding from the state government, because we bushfires are not in our budget, so we want to support our community, and our state government can support us once we present them with the evidence of how it impacted. And so it is really important, no matter how small how you might think that you were impacted, it adds up to being a big thing for everyone in our community.
Go. Councillor Clark.
And if I may, Mayor, just point out too that from incidents like this too, today you'll feel there's no issue, but tomorrow there may, or it'll be next week. And that's why I say to people too, fill in the survey today that there's no issues, but then if tomorrow you forget there is an issue or it pops up, fill it in again and send it in again, because that's going to keep this ongoing Shire assistance and Shire advocacy to the state government ongoing to cover us for a long-term recovery.
Thank you.
So,
I take it as no one wants to speak against the motion. I'll put the motion. All in favour? Against? The motion carried. Thank you. Item 10.5, Heavy Transport and Freight Vehicle Working Group. This report presents the draft terms of reference for the Heavy Transport and Freight Vehicle Working Group for council adoption. The High Marsh Heavy Transport and Freight Working Group was established to strengthen the voice of the heavy transport and freight community by providing advice to ensure council's broader policy issues and council plan and programs reflect the interests of the heavy transport and freight community. The terms of reference have been reviewed, with the primary change being transitioning from an advisory committee to a working group, as this better suits the remit and function of the meetings. And I'll open it to discussion. Councillor Clark.
Mayor, if I haven't previously been part of this heavy vehicle advisory committee, I'll just explain that it's about advising people on the ground, farmers, farm workers, all related parties to the heavy vehicle industry, being able to advise us as a council what sort of infrastructure is needed to best suit this, and by putting in this advisory and giving priorities of these sort of, for example, obviously roads, this is going to assist council in making decisions on what roads will be prepared earlier to the standard required, and we'll be able to also tackle the state government about getting funding to also assist and direct where we really need stuff to suit the heavy transport industry. I'm sorry, Ram, is that how I'm reading what this freight working group's about?
Yep. So it's basically, identification of the strategic routes and freight efficiency routes to help us guide the future direction of the council's renewal program or upgrade programs, any of the policy directions to help us provide that guidance.
Okay. Council.
I think Councillor Clark covered what was on my mind. Thank you.
You've done a great job, Councillor Clark.
Thank you, Mayor. And Mayor, if I may get one step ahead, may I move a motion?
Absolutely.
I made the motion that council adopts the heavy transport and freight vehicle working group terms of reference.
Thank you. And the seconder, Councillor Barry, would you like to speak to the motion?
No, look, I think it's pretty clear that by changing it from an advisory group to a working group is going to also assist in council taking further notice or more notice of this group's recommendations and decisions.
Yeah, agreed. Councillor Barry.
Yeah, well, moving forward, we're in the wheat belt. Everything's getting bigger.
Mm-hmm.
We need to keep up.
Except for our roads.
We need to, ask Ram. We do really need to keep up with that to keep everyone happy. The more product they can move in one go, the more efficient it is. Yep. And we just need to learn more about, trailers, weights, axles, everything moving forward. Without professionals, we can't work it out.
That's right.
And I keep saying a lot of these rural roads were built for Austin and International and Bedford trucks. And the trucks we've got on our roads now are nothing like those anymore, and they move at a lot higher speeds with humongous tonnages, and our roads need to be upgraded, but it ain't going to happen in a real, it's a 20-year project. So anyway, there is a recommendation. Oh, sorry, we've made the recommendation. Sorry, I put the motion. Sorry, all in favour? Against? Motion carried. Thank you. Item 10.6, High Marsh Planning Scheme Review. This report presents High Marsh Planning Scheme Review 2024 for council adoption. Council is required to undertake this review every 4 years to evaluate the scheme's effectiveness in meeting its legislative objectives, identify areas for improvement and outline strategic priorities to guide future development. The review found that administration of the scheme is generally effective, though resourcing challenges persist. particularly in attracting and retaining qualified planners. In terms of strategic direction, the review identified several policy gaps, including the need for improved protection of the Wimmera River, more detailed structure plans for urban settlements and strategies for industrial land, rural land use and housing. The review encourages Council to consider which strategic planning projects should be prioritised and resourced in this Council's term. So, and we do have some planning people in the background here that could answer questions if someone has any. Councillor Barker.
I am really interested in our town planning, and I was excited to see that we were putting together this planning scheme review, which I recognise has been waiting to be completed for quite some time. Is that correct?
Yep.
And yep. Sorry, Ron.
The last review was done in 2008, and this was started in 2024, but we decided to postpone it till the election of the new councillors, and so that we can bring all the councillors up to date with the planning scheme.
And also, yeah, thank you, Ron. And I also love it sort of sets out our strategic direction of short-term, medium-term and long-term that we're going to be working together as councillors over the next few months. And that we are, as I understand, we now have new people that are available to us in the council team who are able to, we didn't have before, who are able to do planners, is that correct? Do planning, town planning.
Yeah, so we've got the new manager of planning and environment, Shirley, with lots of planning experience, and Michaela, who's completed her planning degree, so she's a qualified planner in our planning team, so we can deal with a lot of planning issues internally without having to rely on the consultants. We still rely a lot on the consultants, but we can do some of the work in-house.
Thank you, Ron. And so I guess one last question on that. Like, I was wondering that would that mean that we would have a little bit of, extra in the budget because we're not using so many consultants for town planning, and that we're able to complete town planning applications and considerations in a more timely fashion?
I think our budget is set on expectations of how many planning permits we might receive from the year, but what we're seeing is we're receiving significantly more than what we had set our budget. So it will probably balance out. Rather than having a budget overrun, we'll probably come in close to budget now. So I wouldn't say that we've found savings. We're probably just going to be able to not have cost overruns.
And will it assist us in completing those in a more timely fashion?
Absolutely, yes.
Well, I think the community would be very pleased with that. Thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely. And may I say, very competent staff also. Righto. Councillor Price.
Sorry, Mayor, just one last thing. I just noticed too that part of this review was that so I sort of basically read this part here. A relatively large number of applications, and there is a bit of a bracket there, have been decided by the CEO under delegation in the past few years. It's understood that few councils apply this model. Now, I think we've discussed this further, that by having the CEO and a delegation given, this, because councillors only meet once a month in a general form, this is still ongoing as part of this new plan, so that our applications get through in a timely manner. Is that correct, Grant?
That's correct. At the moment, so we still have the CEO delegation in place.
Yep.
Unless we have some complex planning permit applications with objections, they get approved by the CEO. Anything that gets objections or any of the planning permits that are complex in nature comes to the council for approval. Bringing all of the planning permits to the council for approval will increase the amount of time we'll take to approve the planning permit, and hence the delegation is in place.
Thank you.
Okay, any further questions? If not, we have a recommendation.
I move that the council, 1, adopts a high margin planning scheme review, August 2024, and 2, forwards the report to the Minister for Planning in accordance with Section 12B of the Planning and Environmental Act 1987.
Thank you. And a seconder, Councillor Aiken, like to speak to the motion?
I think anything moving forward that we can get progress a lot quicker is going to help, and this should do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Councillor Aiken?
Same, here.
Yeah. Right. I agree. Anyone like to speak against the motion? If not, before I put the motion, I'll just say thank you, ladies, for your work, because I'm sure you're doing a great job. You know, both of you are very astute people. So put the motion, all in favour? Against, the motion's carried. Thank you. Okay. Item 11, Council Committees. 11.1, Advisory Committee, Jeparat Township Advisory Committee. A copy of the minutes of the Jeparat Township Advisory Committee meeting held on the 10th of February 2025 are included in the attachment for the information of Council. And a recommendation. Councillor Clark.
Just for if I may make the recommendation. I wasn't present at the February meeting here as discussed. I have read those minutes. I was on the council elected representative.
Yep.
I noticed that there were several issues in there that had been raised by the Town Advisory Committee, and I have actually spoken to council staff about those issues today, and I'll be getting back to the Town Advisory Committee. I realise it's not a question, but it's just more for information for members of that committee that, I am certainly following up on their issues.
Good stuff. Good to hear. Right. You can nearly move a recommendation if you'd like to.
Oh, thank you, Mayor. If I may, that the council notes the minutes of the Jeparat Township Advisory Committee meeting held on the 10th of February 2025. They've been included as attachment 15.
Okay. And a seconder? Councillor Aiken. All in favour? Against, motion carried. Thank you. Item 11.2, Community Asset Committee. And we have two here, Women Mallee Pioneers Museum Community Asset Committee and the Urunga Homestead Community Asset Committee. Any comments? No? Well, I'm sorry, Councillor Barker?
I think that did look at this attachment, and I could see that there's a real passion in Jeparat of what their assets are and how they use them and how they can present them to the public. And I think that it'd be really great for us as a council to find ways to support that passion and what is effectively one of our smaller towns that are working hard to maintain these assets, and they are really interesting places to go to, and getting people off the highway to go to them as part of their touring in our area. And I just wonder if that there's this Wimmera Mallee Pioneer Museum Community Asset Committee and then the Urunga Homestead Community Asset Committee, whether would be, I wonder if that's a possibility of joining the two to make it more cohesive for their town, or whether that's not part of their brief, or how that would work at all to sort of less meetings, more action because they seem very action orientated. I don't know how that works on council governance.
I think a question probably needs to go to Councillor Aitken and Councillor Clark, but
Through the mayor, could I quickly just
Absolutely.
speak, but that's always going to be balls in the air on that one. So, with the Wimmera Pioneer Museum at Chaparrot, the demographics of the people that run that actual facility are quite different than the Urunga Homestead as well. So I don't think they'd have a clash, but they have a different way forward of how they're running the two different sites. And because they are only a part of 27 odd miles or 30 odd Ks, I think it would really be good if we kept them apart than put them together.
They're quite historic though, aren't they?
Oh,
Both
absolutely.
historic.
And they're both two lots of very passionate people that are running both sites. So my feeling is, and for Councillor Clark, you'd feel the same way, that we'd keep them apart at this stage?
Oh, certainly, this is something that just Councillor Barker's just come out of nowhere for me, but I've attended the Urunga Homestead last two meetings. We're talking the 23rd of January. They had another one on the 24th of February. Certainly the Urunga Homestead Committee is very small. They're trying to encourage more, but I believe, from what I know of the Wimmera Mallee Pioneer Museum Committee, although they're both looking after historic things, I think too they're also two places that are vastly different in what they are achieving as separate committees, and I just couldn't not see any thought of joining them together. Something I will note in a moment, to run past the Urunga Homestead Committee and get their just initial thoughts on the matter, and Councillor Aitken can do the same if you wish.
Absolutely, Councillor Clark.
I can only raise the issue, but at this stage I certainly couldn't foresee that happening.
I was just curious because, they seem very action orientated and collaborative, and I just wonder whether that could be something that helps it be more powerful for advocating for the history of our region.
it's a good thought.
Yeah.
Anyway, have a recommendation.
Well,
Councillor Clark.
Mayor, if I may just move that council notes the minutes of the following community asset committees, being the Wimmera Mallee Pioneer Museum held on the 17th of December 2024 and the Urunga Homestead meeting held on the 23rd of January 2025, and I note they've been included in attachments 16 and 17.
Thank you. And a seconder? Councillor Barker? Speak to the motion?
No, I think I should.
Councillor Barker?
No, thank you.
Speakers against the motion? No? All right. Put the motion, all in favour. Against the motion carried. Thank you. Righto. Late reports is done. Notices of motion is done. Other business. Start with you, Councillor Barry.
I've got no other business. Let's hope there's no more fires or anything. Is there anything else I need to say? I don't know.
Councillor Aitken.
No other business.
Councillor Barker.
No other business, thank you.
Councillor Oy.
No other business.
And Councillor Clark.
If I may, just going back to our what we said before about businesses being affected. Obviously there was an incident that closed down the Western Highway between 5 p.m. Monday evening until approximately 7 a.m. on the Tuesday morning. Again, this is another thing that just affects basically the community of Dimboola. It's just struck me then, we talked about ongoing, no more fires, no more this. This is something that closed down the Western Highway again for approximately a period of another 14 hours. So, again, council just needs to be aware of that while they're talking to businesses in Dimboola, etc. Another layer on top of already the pre and post fires.
Okay.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
All right. Nothing further?
No, thank you very much, Mayor.
All right. Well, I think that's about it. So item 15 is confidential reports. Sorry?
Yeah, okay, on. Yep.
In accordance, sorry?
Just need a recommendation.
Yeah, just, we need to remove the recommendation, sorry. I didn't know whether I needed to read any of this out or not, but. So I have a recommendation there.
Okay. I recommend that the meeting be closed. So we want.
Yep.
In accordance with section 66 2A of the Local Government Act 2020, to consider reports that contain confidential information as defined by section 3 of the Local Government Act 2020 and or part 4 of the Freedom of Information Act 1982. 15.1, I don't need to say
That is a confidential bit.
15.1 and 16.1.
15.1 and 16.1.
Thank you. And the second, Councillor Clark. All in favour? Against, motion's carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
And that concludes the
Thanks for coming to our
formal
meeting.
part of our meeting, and thank you for all those out there in attendance, and I do apologise again for our late beginning due to technical issues, and look forward to talking with you all again next month. Thank you.